Hey guys, Tyrecom here, and today I'm bringing you another Tower God Theory video, and to be honest with you, it's a topic that I haven't really seen many people talk about or ask me about, but it's something that I have been racking my brain over ever since it's been introduced into the Tower God story, and that is the possibility that there were probably other quote-unquote beta testers in the Tower's history. And to be honest with you, I don't really have much to say in this intro section of the video, so without any further ado, let's get right into it. This theory of mine originates from chapter 630 of Tower God, where the God Guardian calls Gustang, Traumrai, and Yidong more beta testers, implying that the 13 warriors weren't the first group of irregulars to enter the tower. Now, I have seen some debate over these lines, and there is an interpretation that just completely ruins my theory, and that is that the God Guardians was talking about the three in relation to V who arrived before them, which is a totally fair way to view this scene, but for the sake of this video slash theory, and personally a more exciting view for this scene, is that the God of Guardians was referring to the past irregulars that climbed the tower. And the God of Guardians even says in the same dialogue that the 13 warriors we see are quote-unquote more lost causes doomed to fail. So I feel pretty strongly that he wasn't just talking about V in this scene. But again, it comes down to interpretation, and this is just my personal one. But now that I have put this idea in everyone's minds, by now I have to answer another very important question. And that is, why does this even matter in the first place? Sure, it's cool that there may have been people before Jihad that entered the tower, but we don't know anything about who they are, and like the God of Guardians implied, they all most likely died trying to climb the tower, unlike the 13 warriors who made it all the way up to the 134th floor and left a deep impact on the tower's history. But this is where the theory aspect of this video comes into play, as I believe one of the beta testers of the tower before Jihad and the 13 warriors was the notorious Enryu, the Red Tower himself, and he, unlike most of the other beta testers who most likely died on the climb, actually managed to make it all the way to the real top of the tower and basically quote-unquote beat it like one would a video game. I have most of my reasons to why I think this in this video, and the first things I want to bring up is how a change like this would impact and explain a lot of stuff we already know about Enryu in the main Tower God story, and those being three main points about Enryu: his strength, his Shinsu control, and his rank. This theory of mine would partially explain Enryu's strength and Shinsu control, which are above that of even Jihad, because he simply climbed further than Jihad ever did, and most likely did it alone without an actual team, for reasons I will bring up later in this video. His level of Shinsu control would also sort of be explained by this, but I still believe that there has to be something with the outside god that Enryu serves, because it's still crazy that he can outperform a guardian in pure Shinsu control. And finally, it would actually kind of fix a problem that I have heard some people talk about, and even Dr. Bonehead made a video about, which is talking about Enryu's rank of high ranker, in which he asked, why is Enryu a ranker if he never climbed and reached the top of the tower, which is the whole point of the term ranker. And while some in the community would just brush this off and say that it's just due to his strength, you have to remember that there are many powerful individuals that aren't ranked in the tower, like Mixeth for example, and I would assume that Mixeth has been to all the floors of the tower as well. And while you could say that the workshop just doesn't care about the rankings, it's still a factor that is hard to ignore with somebody as influential and important as Mixeth, in my opinion. But this theory of mine would make Enryu's rank make a lot of sense, since he would technically be the most qualified in the entire tower to be a ranker, as he actually climbed to the point where he reached the true top of the tower, unlike Jihad where he only reached the 134th floor. Now, getting into why I think Enryu was really the only beta tester to not fail is because of two important reasons. The first is simply due to styles and equipment. We know in lore that the weapons of the tower were made and based off the weapons from the outside that the 13 warriors brought in with them by the workshop to fit the environment of the tower more and make fighting far easier. As with normal non-tower weapons, the further you go up the tower, the harder it will be to wield them due to Shinsu density as explained in Season 1. And while Enryu seems great in spear use and would be considered a spear bearer to most in the community and the world of the Tower of God, there is no getting around the fact that he is a Shinsu user through and through, and I think this is mostly the reason he did so well compared to most, as he wasn't reliant on weapons that would get harder to use over time, and I think ultimately be their downfall. And if this was their downfall, that would make sense to why the workshop, who probably predates all these beta testers, would want to try to modify the weapons to that of the tower now that a new group of irregulars came into it. The next reason I think Enryu did so well is because I believe that he went through revolution and chose not to share it with others, basically making the opposite of the choice that V ended up making, leading to himself becoming way stronger but no one else, and this would also include even the enemies and dangers he would face in the tower, since they wouldn't have undergone evolution like the God of Guardians explained to V in the flashback. So now with this theory, you have an Enryu that is overpowered due to his revolution, plus his use of Shinsu, while the rest of the tower, be it good or bad, frankly is not as strong as it would have been if he shared revolution with others like V did. And I think this mesh of features that I have been explaining is a very logical reasoning as to why Enryu was truly the only person to ever pass the tower and make it all the way to the top. And digging further into this theory, this could also explain how Enryu is so close to the outside god in a way, as it does seem that a lot of people of the outside know of this entity, as there are festivals for them, and Arlie knew enough about them to seek them out when she left the tower and asked them to revive her child. Now, how I think this gets interesting is that I think now with all of this being put into perspective, I also want to kind of expand on my theory and speculate on what the outside god may represent. Now, do you remember the story we get of the tower's creation in Tower of God? Well, to remind you, it's about a man who was lonely and wanted to reach a star, so made a tower to climb all the way up to reach it. Now, I have always had my issues with this telling of this tower's creation, as I saw it as an oversimplification, and while it may still be that, I think now with this theory that the outside god is meant to represent the star at the top of the tower, the same star many characters like Arlen, Grace, and Rachel have spoken of, the same star that will grant a wish to those who leave the tower. Now, some of you may see where I'm going with this. I believe that Enryu made it all the way to the top of the tower, met the outside god, and got a wish granted, and I believe that Enryu wished to be the god's messenger, and in turn making him even more powerful than he already was. Now, I will say that this theory of mine is pretty bare bones. We don't have much evidence other than the little pieces that I've talked about in this video, and of course, none of this could be true. We're probably going to get at some point an Enryu backstory in the story of Tower of God, and if it doesn't end up being this at all, I'm not going to be mad about it at all, as again, we just get more Tower of God content from SIU, and I'll always be happy about that no matter what it is, even if my theories are wrong. This, at the end of the day, is just purely to have fun, and I'm not taking this theory 100% seriously, or oh, I think that I'm 100% right about this. No, of course, it's merely a theory. I think it's pretty fun to talk about and speculate about, especially from these little pieces of dialogue and lore we got and through all the parts of the story. Now, kind of bringing it back, what do you guys think of my Enryu origin theory of the beta testers and the first group of irregulars before Jihad ever came into the tower? Do you agree with my explanations of why I think the beta testers didn't actually do that well, and the reasoning why? Because of their weapons, and maybe because Enryu kept revolution all to himself and didn't share it with others? I think it makes a little bit of sense, but now that I've laid my own theory bare, I think it would be pretty fun if you guys did the same in the comments, and we can have an open discussion. Again, no theory at this point is confirmed or not confirmed or anything. It's just strong feelings that we all have about this story that means so much to us. And with all that being said, remember, I'm always going to be here to give you guys the truth, and if the truth is not always explained, I'm always going to be here to give you guys my opinion on the truth. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.